Alright, second video about the battles. This is now the North African front and also kind of moving into the European front. Now, in North Africa it was basically decided what was going on, and this is probably the biggest battle that no one really wants to talk about. The two biggest minds here, the Germans had a guy named Erding Rommel, they called the Desert Fox, and the Americans had a great general named George Patton. And these two had monstrous amounts of respect for one another, just because they knew what they were up against. And there was many battles here in North Africa, but for time's sake I can't go into a lot of those battles. Suffice to say that Patton did come out with the upper hand through a very decisive battle at El Alamein, which is near Egypt, and Rommel will be moved into a different position, which I will cover when I get to it. Okay? So with that now out of the way, and North Africa basically liberated, at the capital of Morocco, which is called Casablanca, FDR and Winston Churchill will meet to have the Casablanca Conference. Now, the Casablanca Conference is highly important because the way the war ended was basically decided here. And that is, they decided that the Axis must surrender unconditionally. It's an ultimatum. It's an or else. And so you have the little picture here. You have FDR and Churchill looking at unconditional surrender of Axis powers while they're looking in the mirror, and they're on the doorstep, like they're right there. So what is unconditional surrender? It means when the treaty negotiations are signed, you will get nothing and like it. So we're basically all in to make them 100% just succumb and give up. Okay? Now, the battles that we have here, the Battle of Stalingrad. Okay, if you remember, I told you that Hitler in 1941 will invade through Operation Barbarossa to get into the Soviet Union. But some quick facts. The Soviets used tactics from the Roman Empire, which is actually cool. This is one of the bloodiest battles in history. Russia still considers it their greatest military victory. The Soviet actually had an anti-aircraft regiment of all women, and famously there was a famous sniper who killed over 3,000 men on his own. They basically held the city, and because they did something no one else had done, and that is make the Germans retreat. And as they're pushing back through this cold winter, they're going to pursue them all the way back until they get to Berlin. And so that's an important thing, okay, as things are really starting to change there. Battle of Stalingrad, guys, is the turning point in Europe, much like the Battle of Midway was the turning point in the Pacific. Okay? So we have the two fronts. We have the East and the West front, right, in Europe. And I'm leaving Japan out here, so we're pushing back. So on the East front, which would be the Soviet Union, the Germans are now being pushed back into their own territory. And on the West front, if you remember, they're still fighting the British, trying to bomb them into submission. They're controlling France, etc. And so the United States is going to decide we're going to come up through the bottom. Basically in North Africa, we're going to take Italy first. Because if you've ever seen an alligator, you don't tuck an alligator on the top, you go through the soft underbelly. They said Italy was a soft underbelly, we're going to come up underneath. However, Stalin is not appeased by this, he doesn't like this, and he wants to consider us some type of invasion, but there's really got to be a lot more discussion about that, and that is going to be the third video. Is going to be all about that invasion idea.